What's up, party people? It's Dan, your basement guitar superstar. Today is another episode of Creator Hangout, where I hang out with other YouTube content creators that I love their channels. And this man right here is no exception. So please join me in welcoming Jake Leigh from Jake Leigh Guitars. Jake, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm honored that you would include me, as I've seen like the caliber of people you've had in the past. So I'm so pleased to be here.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. And one of the things that I need to give you kudos for, or say thanks for, is you've been a huge supporter of mine for a long time. And I guess I'm curious how you found out about my channel. Was it through when I had Mike on the one time, or what was it?
I think I got used to seeing your name sort of pop up all the time in the live streams on the Sunday night live streams that Mike would do. But yeah, possibly it could have been. It's been such a sort of. I mean, it's been a good kind of like year now. Yeah. So I think it might have been that, or it was seeing you in the live streams. It was one of the two.
Okay, cool. Sounds good, man. So talk to me about how you got started playing guitar. You've obviously been playing for a while based on your skill level.
Oh, cheers. Well, it's. I always thought I was going to be a drummer, and like my dad's a drummer, and he was in bands in the 80s and that before I was born. But I really always wanted to play guitar, and it was probably from like the age of sort of 8 or 9. But I didn't really like the idea of just being at the back, to be honest. And at the same time, I was never really into music, so which feels really weird looking back at that sort of point in my life where I wasn't into music, and now it's like this whole thing that's just like taken over everything. And so I started secondary school. I was like 11, nearly 12, and a crazy music teacher started handing out forms for lessons to anyone that was interested. And I knew I wanted to play guitar. So I took one of these forms home to my mum and dad, and it's really weird. I've got this like really vivid memory that I was walking down this. They were in the garden at the time, and I walked down this big fire escape, and I gave him the form, and I was like, oh, "I want to do some kind of lesson." And my dad was like, "Yeah, of course. So as long as you play something cool, not like don't bring home like a violin or clarinet or something." He was joking, of course, but right. Well, maybe. And so the conversation ended up going more towards guitar, which I was happy with. I think I was a bit sort of shy at the time, as I didn't want to like say outright, "Oh yeah, I want to play guitar," but I kind of did. So anyway, I signed up for these lessons. They were at school. They were like half an hour, but they were shared. And so there were 2 of us in the lessons, and I didn't really learn much, to be honest. But I had a good teacher at the start, and he left, and so I just used these lessons to kind of conflict with lessons at school that I didn't really like religious education or something like that. So I'd use these lessons to kind of get out of the lessons I didn't like doing while being able to play around with guitar at the same time. So it worked out perfectly.
Nice, you're a man after my own heart.
Exactly, yeah, yeah. So, and I was all right. I wasn't good, but I was way better than everyone else at school. There wasn't a huge amount of people playing, and the people that were playing, I was a lot better than. And I think it's like a kind of personality trait that I've got is if I find something that I'm kind of good at, I really get into it, and I get kind of competitive with it, and it kind of keeps me going. I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing, but it's just like sort of one of those things. And I wasn't, and like I was saying, I wasn't really into music. You know, I'd listen to some kind of Britpop stuff at the time, like Oasis and Manic Street Preachers, and it was all right. If you weren't into like the radio pop stuff, that was the guitar-based kind of alternative that you'd hear on the radio. And then I heard Enema of the State by Blink, and that just changed everything. I discovered this whole other world of music, and I was just 100% into it from that point. Like guitar just became my life, and it was the same kind of time as pop punk was really kind of exploding in the early 2000s, and then that opened the doors to like new metal and that kind of thing, and then it just kind of progressed from there, and then just ruined my life basically.
Nice.
And here we are.
So did pop punk? Because I know, like, we're behind you guys, or have been traditionally. If you look through the decades, like rock and roll got popular first in England before it did here. Now, is that kind of the same with other styles of music? As far as like, was pop punk big here first before you guys got it?
I think, yeah. I mean, there's the whole sort of a lot of when you speak to like purists, they'll be like, "Oh, all these bands got it from Buzzcocks and from all these English bands, and then the American bands took it and molded it into their own thing." And I don't know true that is. I don't know if they've got their own, because when you hear a lot of them speak in their interviews, they're like, say like the period of time that I'm talking about, a lot of those bands will go back to Descendants and Rancid and stuff like that. And I don't know whether there's like a direct influence between that or if it was from like just sort of 70s punk or whatever, but it was definitely more of a popular kind of music over in America and not so much of a big thing over here. And especially with like the kind of group of friends that I had, nobody was really into that kind of music. And it was before the internet was there, but it wasn't like what it is now. It wasn't so accessible. Like you'd have to go into like Kazaa and LimeWire and like type in a band and hope they'd be like associated with another band. And that's how I kind of found out other bands or seeing what was on TV at the time, like Kerrang TV or we had Scuzz over here at the time, but we didn't really have that. But yeah, so I think that, what was the question?
No, that answered my question. I was just curious if you guys got pop punk after we did, or it became popular after it was over here, and it sounds like it did.
Yeah, it was definitely like we took all of our influence from the American bands, 100%.
Well, and we've stole influence from you guys before too. I mean,
yeah, it's like a give and take kind of back and forth kind of thing, isn't it?
I mean, Britain's our biggest ally. Why wouldn't we share stuff with you guys?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we've got so many sort of similarities, and obviously the language thing is such a huge sort of part of it as well.
Right, exactly. What was your first guitar then? Do you remember?
My first guitar, I don't have it here. It's upstairs in a loft somewhere, but it was a Squire Strat, Affinity Series Squire Strat, and I had like an old H&H amp that my dad's kind of got hold of, but it was converted. The speakers were like, they weren't guitar amp speakers. They were like, at the time, they described it as like you could use like keyboard or you could use bass with it. So what I understand now, it was like a full range kind of flat response kind of PA type speaker.
Oh, sure.
So when I was playing, there was no gain, there was no like drive or anything like that. So I was just used to playing with this clean kind of dry sound. And then at one point, I think it was like maybe 2001, we got a Line 6 Pod 2. And then that just changed everything because you got all these sounds. And actually, because like the big thing at the moment is doing the full FR thing, I was actually doing that back then because I didn't realize I was doing it, but I was using the pod with the speaker simulation into this amp that was full range flat response. And I've kind of stuck with that ever since. I mean, I go between amps and that, but I think like because I got into that kind of sound and feel of things at such a young age, the FR thing just kind of works for me.
Sure.
And then so that was like I always wanted it because I always wanted the Tom DeLonge Strat, which everybody my age who was into that kind of thing, they wanted the Tom DeLonge Strat. So we stripped the guitar back, we painted it green, we changed the pick guard and stuff. It's got an Invader in it now, but it was like, but eventually, I'll show you at some point. I did finally get the real thing, but yeah, it was a good guitar to start on. And I try not to sell any guitars. I mean, there's been a few that have got away over the years that I'm not too bothered about, but I'm really happy that I've kept my first guitar.
Yeah, that is pretty awesome. I no longer have my first one.
Oh, really? What was your first guitar?
It was I think the brand was Cruise by VMI. It had I want to say it was like an Ibanez knockoff because it had the Ibanez headstock on it.
Yeah.
That looked very similar. It might have been a lawsuit guitar, but it was horrible to play. It was super stiff. I think it had a plastic nut on it, and it was too high. My first proper guitar, though, I got a Fender Tornado.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And ended up selling that because of some baggage I had with the band I used to play in that I just needed to get rid of mentally and move on. But yeah, that was my first good guitar.
That's a really cool guitar. I remember it was like sort of late 90s, early 2000s, wasn't it? They brought out the Tornado and the Cyclone.
Yeah.
They had the graffiti yellow Cyclone. I always wanted that, and you can't find them anywhere, and the people are asking crazy money for it now.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And now that's why I was so happy when Squire came out with that Paranormal series and they rebuilt the Tornadoes because, I mean, the Chinese-made stuff now is getting so good that I think it sounds better than that Made in Mexico Tornado back in the day.
Yeah. And the whole like having a Squire on the headstock, it's not like what it was before.
Right.
Like it's not, used to be so uncool, and now it's like it's as good as the Mexican stuff or whatever.
Right.
And it's such a good sort of like modding platform, isn't it? Such a like the bare bones of it are there. So as you sort of progress through your playing and understand what you like and what you like the sound of, you can just add to those guitars.
Plus, in the overseas factories like Japan, China, Indonesia, some of those guys that were building 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So they have the experience now of having done it thousands of times.
Yeah. I mean, I get a Harley Bentons now, and I pick them up, and they're like £85, and you just can't believe like the amount of guitar you can get for the money now. And if you have like a bit of experience and a bit of knowledge about how to set things up, then you can turn it into such a good playing guitar for such a small amount of money.
Exactly.
And the knowledge is there now, because before you didn't have like however many Phil McKnight videos on YouTube showing you how to do everything, and now it's just all there at your fingertips, so you can give anything a go. And especially if you've got a guitar like that, like how bad are you really going to mess it up?
Right. Well, and if you totally mess it up and you paid $85 for it, or 85 pounds,
yeah.
I think that's $120 in the US. I mean, you're not out that much money.
No, definitely not.
I wouldn't try it on the $3,000 Gibson Les Paul, but
yeah,
you know. So what'd your dad think of you getting into pop punk then, since he was a drummer? I'm assuming he played a lot of the Britpop stuff, right?
No, he played like he was there like with the new wave of British heavy metal stuff, so like Iron Maiden, Def Leppard.
Oh, really? Nice.
I know, yeah, that kind of stuff. Yeah, all those sort of bands, Judas Priest, and he was he was playing he was playing like the same kind of clubs and that they all were. So he was really into it, and I think just see it. I mean, now I'm into that kind of stuff as well, but just as this kind of gateway kind of thing, it's like whatever. Because I've got young kids now as well, and it's like whatever kind of music they want, it doesn't really matter, as long as it's like some kind of gateway into it, and then they kind of expand and then discover whatever else. But it's just having that starting, and I think you've got to find that starting point yourself, because I think that there was a lot of music being played, but it wasn't, and now I appreciate it a lot more, but I had to sort of like make my own sort of way and find my own kind of opening into it,
right,
for it to become like this organic sort of thing. Otherwise, it's never really your kind of thing, is it? It's like someone else's. So, he obviously like just loves that I play and that I do the band stuff, and now this weird transition into the YouTube thing. Like, it's just it's
right.
Cool.
I listened to both your bands. I really like both of them. You kind of,
thank you.
You're kind of in this melodic hard rock vein, especially with Repair to Ruin. It reminded me a lot of the band Brand New.
Really? Okay. Yeah. I've never heard that kind of comparison, but that's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I love Brand New. They're one of my favorite bands, and it reminded me of that. A little bit more melodic though, so I love that. Are you done doing bands then, or are you just going to do the YouTube?
No, it's just like, with the whole thing that's happened in the world at the moment, it's kind of put that sort of thing on the back. Well, I mean, like in August, I'm doing a small UK tour with CueCliche, and then we've got a whole we've got an EP coming out, and we're releasing like a song a month from I think August onwards. So that side of things, that's all going. Repair to Ruin we live in like 3 different places, and I mean it's not a million miles away, but with the like travel situations, it's a bit awkward to get to. So that's kind of been put on hold a little bit. We've had a load of gigs been offered to us, and it's just trying to make them work at the moment. But so they're both still going. CueCliche is probably quite a bit more active than Repair to Ruin at the moment.
Okay.
But Repair to Ruin was like there. I mean, we started Repair to Ruin probably sort of 2012, so it's been going for like quite a while, and it'll continue going. It's just a slow period.
Right. And for those of you watching, I'll post links to where you can find all of Jake's music.
Oh, thank you very much.
Great stuff, as well as like Instagram and YouTube videos that he sent me and all that. So for those of you watching, go check it out, especially if you're into melodic hard rock. Great stuff for sure. What's the furthest away you've been from London to tour then? Like, have you guys done Europe or have you?
We haven't done Europe. We just do UK tours at the moment. It's something we've spoke about, and our bass player in CueCliche is from Denmark, so he's quite keen to go over to Europe and do a bit of touring. But obviously, the last couple of years we haven't been able to do anything like that. But I think it's something that will.
Sounds like musicians got the royal shaft in that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's it's been horrible in some ways, and then it's kind of opened up. Say like the YouTube thing, like I would have never have had the opportunity to do that, and I'm really enjoying it, and it's been working out really well so far. And if I had been doing all the other stuff, then I wouldn't have that side, but now I've got the two sides, so it's kind of been all right like that. I would like to be gigging more with Repair to Ruin, but that's just how things are at the moment.
Right, and you're based in London, right?
Yeah.
Okay, what's your favorite part of England that's not London? Because I've been there twice, and I absolutely love the UK. Like, I would totally live there if my wife and kids were okay with moving.
What was your favorite part of the UK that you...
Sheringham.
Oh, okay. Yeah, cool. Well,
you know,
we've had a few...
It's up in Norfolk.
Yeah. We're actually going away for 2 weeks in Norfolk in a couple of weeks' time, like a family holiday. I'd say we've toured kind of pretty much everywhere, and then through like sort of family holidays, we've explored a lot of Cornwall and sort of down sort of southwest. Yeah. And some of the beaches there, you're on the beach and you're like, this could be like anywhere else. It's just surreal. So there's some really nice places down there. So yeah, I'd probably say one of these kind of little quiet corner. But you know what? I can't imagine sort of. I'd like to go to somewhere like that, but I'd always like to come back to sort of normality and reality, because I've lived in London like my whole life. So anytime I go out of London, everywhere else kind of feels a bit alien. Right. We spend quite a bit of time. Our bass player, he's Danish, but he's from Liverpool as well. So we spend quite a bit of time sort of gigging in Liverpool, and that seems really nice. So
yeah, I like that area. We went up to, I'm trying to think of where all we went. So stayed in London for a bit, went through Ipswich, Norwich, Sheringham for a couple days, and then we went up to Inverness. And I think we were in Cornwall for a night before we went to Wales. We were in Wales for like...
Wow, you did everything then.
Then took a ferry over to Ireland for a couple days, and yeah, it was great fun.
You made the most of your time. You got around pretty much everywhere. It's really funny that you bring up sort of Norwich, because a lot of people used to think that Repair to Ruin were a band from Norwich, because we would gig in Norwich so frequently, way more than we would gig in London. I mean, it's like, a good few times a year. So we kind of feel at home in Norwich. So yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Cool place.
Yeah, dude. So what's the London scene like right now? I mean, obviously, I'm sure a lot of clubs shut down during the pandemic, but do you feel like there's more support for music now than there was before the pandemic hit?
We've done a handful of gigs since things have come. Well, we did a few gigs during the whole pandemic, and it was like a COVID safe gig, so it was all behind like plexiglass. Everybody was seated. All the lights were on, there was all the distancing, and it didn't feel anything like a gig. It felt so clinical and weird. And if we were at that point where that's how gigs were, I don't think I would enjoy playing gigs anymore. Like, it wasn't fun. But since that's all kind of relaxed a bit, the gigs that we have played, they've been, with CueCliche, quite a few of them have been like pop punk nights. So with other pop punk bands, so there's kind of a community there. Everybody stays around and supports each other. They've been really good. During the pandemic, a lot of rehearsal studios shut down. I can think of about sort of 4 or 5 of my local ones that they're gone now. So that's had a bit of an impact. And then a lot of bands have kind of called it a day as well, because the communication kind of stops between band members and it all sort of fizzles out. So there's less bands. There's surprisingly, a lot of the venues I can think of, they did make it through. I don't know if it's the majority, but a lot of the ones that we play, they've remained. And getting gigs is kind of hasn't really got any sort of easier or harder. It's about the same, but not a huge amount has changed. And it's always been the London gigs, especially, have always been really difficult because there's so many gigs, there's so many venues, there's so many bands playing. So most venues put on like say 4 or 5 bands a night, and they're playing sort of every night. And there's so many venues and there's so many options, so much to do. Getting people, it doesn't matter how many sort of Instagram followers or Spotify listens, to get them to physically get to the venue has always been a really difficult sort of task. And it's just very similar to how it was before, really. I haven't seen too much change.
So the crowds aren't getting any bigger then?
No, and I always felt it was going to go one of two ways. It was going to be like the live thing was going to be over and people were going to be like, oh, we just watch sort of YouTube kind of gigs and streaming gigs. Or people were going to be like, I can't wait to get back out. And I think immediately after there was a bit of, the crowds were good. And now it's kind of settled down to be kind of how it was, really.
Oh,
and as long as you pick your gigs well, venue-wise, and the right nights, not necessarily like a Friday, Saturday, as long as it's like a well put together night with a similar kind of band that are all going to sort of like support each other, then it's always pretty good. There's a lot of venues in London that will just put on an indie band, a metal band, a 2-piece, whatever kind of band, and it just makes no sense. And nobody supports each other. They just leave after they play, and it's just a sort of depressing event, really. But if you pick it right and you do the ones where the promoter really cares and they put a lot of thought into it, then it's always worth doing, and it's always going to be a good gig.
Awesome. So what's your favorite venue to play at then in London?
My favourite venue to play is probably the Underworld in Camden.
Okay.
It's a nice size. It's like a 500 capacity venue, and I think the last time I played it was maybe like 2016. So it's been a few years since I played it. But yeah, brilliant sound. Like you've got the front of house, but you've also got somebody doing your monitors as well, which always makes such a huge amount of difference. We tried doing the in-ear monitor thing for a while, bringing around this whole huge rack case, and by the time you set it up, it's eating into your sound check time, and it just wasn't worth it. So we went back to doing more of a kind of traditional setup. So if you've got the opportunity to have your own sort of monitor people, then it's just perfect.
Oh, sure. Anyway, we'll come back to that if I think of it. Who are your biggest guitar influences then? Obviously Blink-182, right?
Yeah. Although I never want to say that, because that is really like the biggest influence that got me into it. But then from that point, it's everyone. A lot of the Whitesnake guitarists, so like Doug Aldrich and John Sykes, Vivian Campbell, all those, and then Def Leppard have been like a massive band for me. So Phil Collin and Mark Tremonti, Gary Moore is a big one. Thin Lizzy, those kind of bands. And I got into like the power metal thing for a little while, a few years ago, and then just so many good guitarists. It's depressing.
Oh,
Mark Tremonti was a really big one, even from like back in the Creed days, when I first heard that like big like PRS Messer drop D sound. I was like, yeah, that's cool. And
an even more amazing thing about that is like he replicated that sound on stage by himself too.
Yeah.
Which I just thought was amazing.
And when you see the rigs that he was using back then, it's like mad. Yeah, he's a huge influence. And obviously then going on to Alter Bridge was just the next sort of level above that, wasn't it? It just took his playing, took his songwriting just to a new level.
Yeah, and it's a shame that Alter Bridge didn't get as big as Creed did, because I feel like the songwriting is much better. Maybe not
way better, and then obviously like Miles's vocal ability is just like, does it get better than that? It's just, I think over here Not sure, but I would say that maybe Alter Bridge are bigger than Creed's ever were. And I don't know if Creed ever actually toured over here.
Really?
Yeah, but Alter Bridge have been over here loads of times, and they're playing like the O2 and massive places, and people love them over here. And I think in the rest of Europe as well.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that would make sense too. That it's interesting to see the bands that are big in the U.S. that are not big in Europe, but then like bands that totally bomb here are gigantic over in Europe.
Yeah,
it's such an interesting dynamic to see like what's popular in both spots. Oh, yeah. I remembered what I was going to ask you earlier. You had mentioned that there's a lot fewer bands, but I mean this genuinely, Jake, when I say this. It feels like the quality of rock and roll in the UK right now is unprecedented. Like, it's so good. There's at least 10 to 15 bands that I am like huge into right now that I've discovered in the last probably year that are from the UK.
What bands are you listening to from the UK at the moment?
False Heads is a big one.
Okay.
Revival Black, Riders Creed, Cardinal Black, Chapter and Verse is awesome. Trying to think of who else is on that list. I know I can't name them all offhand, but I listen to them religiously on Spotify.
Yeah, there are some really good bands coming out of the UK at the moment. There's a band called Hollow Star.
Yep, I've heard of them.
Yeah, Mason Hill.
Yep, I've heard of Mason Hill.
Those Damned Crows.
I really like.
And Stone Broken.
I haven't heard them yet.
They're really good. If you like those other bands, you'd probably I'd say that they're probably the biggest out of those bands.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I think they're doing like I think they might have just finished it, actually. They were doing a headline tour, and a lot of those bands were supporting.
Okay.
But yeah, check them out. They're a really good band. Yeah. I mean,
is it something in the water over there in the UK? Because it seems like you guys have all the good rock and roll right now. And
see, for us, we probably think the opposite. We think like all these bands in America that we hear, and we're like, oh man, wish we were in America. Like a band I'm really into at the moment is Bad Wolves. I don't know if you. Yeah,
I've heard of Bad Wolves.
You probably know him from the cover of Zombie, the Cranberries song.
Yeah.
But they got a new singer recently, and their new album is just unbelievable. If you get a chance, check it out. It's kind of like it mixes like all this melodic kind of music with the heavier kind of genty sort of, which I'm not really into, but it just works so well. But they're definitely a band worth checking out.
Right. Well, and you mentioned you're the only person from the UK I've talked to that's actually mentioned Manic Street Preachers without me having to ask. They're one of my favorite bands. I love Manic Street Preachers.
I used to listen to them a lot, and I think like as I got into sort of heavier kind of music, that I'd sort of like I haven't really gone back to listen to it, but sometimes like a song will come on and I'll be like, what is this? Like something that I didn't know, like maybe some of their earlier stuff. I just think like songwriting, I think his sort of vocal sound, his vocals lyrically and everything is all cool.
James Dean Bradford, I think that's his name, right?
Yeah, that's right.
He's so underrated as a guitar player.
Yeah, he's got a very kind of distinctive sort of big sound, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And especially when you look at the videos of them and they're doing it as like a 3-piece, and maybe they'll have some like session musicians going and whatever, but yeah, he's got a good sound. His songwriting is really good.
Yeah, for sure.
Underrated, definitely.
Yeah, and I just realized I like to make a top 10 list of favorite guitarists every once in a while. I just realized that 3 of my top 5 are from the UK.
So what 3 are they?
So Mick Jones from Foreigner.
Yeah, I saw Foreigner recently, and he got up and played maybe 3 or 4 songs at the end. I think he just he goes out on tour with them, but he just does like a few songs at the end.
Yeah, I saw him in Ottumwa, Iowa recently. He didn't play with them, but.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was with it's on the Whitesnake farewell tour that they've just been doing with Europe, and so it was Europe opening, and then Foreigner, and then Whitesnake.
Oh, how was Whitesnake live?
Oh, not good.
Really?
Like musically perfect, but it was in a way like, you know, David Coverdale. He brought somebody else on. I can't remember his name, but he does like additional guitar and keyboards. But he kind of sings through the whole set as well, sort of backing him up. And if he wasn't there doing it, and I think a lot of people would be complaining, but it was a combination of that kind of saved it, and the fact that everybody knows like it really is kind of a farewell sort of. So you can hear he's not going to be able to do it for much longer. He was really struggling, and it was a case of like, I'm going to let the audience sing for a lot of it. And it was fine because he had that kind of attitude about it, and he, you know, they'd gone to the effort of bringing this other person on board, so people were still getting sort of value for money and seeing like a decent show. Right. So I'm really glad that I went, but I'm not going to say. I mean, I've been seeing them for about 20 years now. So the first time I saw him was with like Doug Aldrich and Marco Mendoza, and I think they were at a point then when I don't know if it was like the strongest they'd ever been because they've had such good lineups in the past, but it was a really sort of impressive lineup, and it is now musically, but he's not able to do what, and he's 70, so
right. But they aren't doing what Kiss is doing, right, where they play with like a tape going in the background.
No, they just had a lot of musicians on stage. You can tell they were doing it live, but he was struggling, and it was a good gig, and I'm really glad that I went. But
that's awesome.
Yeah. I'm glad that he's, you know, there's a lot of these bands that kind of go on forever when they probably shouldn't be, and I'm glad that he's got to the point where he knows that's it.
Right. Well, I mean, they blow their money on women and cars and drugs.
And his sort of like vocal style as well. If you sing like that for like 50 years, it's going to take a toll.
Right. Exactly. And I love David Coverdale's voice, so it's kind of, you know, I haven't seen any footage of them recently, but it's sad if he's kind of losing that a little bit. Even, I mean,
because the comparison to make at the moment is the Bon Jovi thing, where he hasn't addressed it. It's like he's pretending it's not happening.
Right.
Whereas at least David Coverdale, it's not said, but it's like kind of like a mutual understanding that we know that, you know, this is his last tour. It's more of a goodbye kind of thing. Whereas I don't know what's going on with the Bon Jovi thing. I think there's loads of speculation, but
yeah. Well, I felt like Bon Jovi kind of turned to crap after Richie Sambora left anyway, but that's just my.
It's a hard one, isn't it? Like, I love Phil X. I think he's brilliant. I think
and I love Phil X too, but like he's, you know, he brings a different dynamic.
Yeah,
it's not the same vibe.
No.
Sambora had.
Yeah, and it's not the same. And I'm a massive, like, Richie Sambora's up there on my top 10 easily. And, you know, I like Phil X. I think his voice is brilliant. Obviously his playing is brilliant. But I'd still rather go and see him with Richie. Right.
Well, and to piggyback off that, I also love Phil X. So I don't want people watching to think I'm knocking him because it's Phil X's fault. Like, I felt like Phil X would be perfect in any situation. It's just the vibe with Bon Jovi, how they are as a band, doesn't really, to me, fit with his aesthetic as a guitarist, if you know what I mean by that.
You can tell that he's so restrained. It's like, you can imagine like it's written into his contracts, like what he isn't allowed to do and that kind of thing. But, you know, he's not going to say no to it.
Right, exactly. I mean, if the money's there, why not do it, you know? But, oh, yeah, so my other two that are in my top 5 are Gavin Rossdale from Bush.
Yeah, I've heard you bring him up a few times. You're a massive Gavin Rossdale fan.
Oh, my God, dude, man crush level.
Because that's a band that they didn't do anything over here, really. Like, if I speak to most people, they'll be like, who?
Yeah.
But huge in America.
Yeah, well, and they've been back since like 2004 and just dropped a really fantastic album in the last year and a half.
I don't know enough about them. I've got to check them out.
Yeah. And then Jimmy Page obviously is in my top 5 too. So.
And who are the other two who are not English?
Mark McMillan, who I know you won't know who he is, but he was in a like indie, not like indie as in pretentious indie, just independent as underground, like kind of pop punk hard rock band called The Story Changes. Now he plays with Hawthorne Heights.
Okay.
Still just The Story Changes on the side, but Hawthorne's his main gig.
Yeah.
But like my band I used to play drums for, we played a bunch of shows with them when they'd come through Iowa. And I'm actually friends with him and the drummer from Hawthorne Heights. They're both in The Story Changes. Really great dudes. But Mark is probably one of the most underrated guitar players in the U.S., in my opinion. And then other top 5 is Damon Johnson, if you know who he is.
Damon Johnson from Black Star Riders?
Yeah. Black Star Riders, Brother Kane. He's played with Thin Lizzy for a long time.
Is he the one who he left Black Star Riders recently?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
But he's still playing when Glenn what's his face from Thin Lizzy asked him to come on tour. He'll go on tour with Thin Lizzy.
Yeah, that's right. Because I thought it was weird when he left because the replacement was someone who used to be in, was it Stone Sour?
Yeah.
For Black Star Riders. So I was that's a very different top 5 than you would expect from most people. That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy Page, just Led Zeppelin was one of my favorite bands of all time growing up. Foreigner's the same way. That's why I love Mick Jones so much. And Gavin, I just base it on bands that I love, that I've always loved. And
it make you want to play.
That made me want to pick up a guitar, right? And those are the top 5. Now, I will say that Damon Johnson has cracked my top 5 recently. Dave Grohl used to be in my top 5, but
really?
I feel like the last 2 Foo Fighters albums have been absolute dog crap. No offense to any Foo Fighters fans watching, but
I'm not a huge Foo Fighters fan, to be honest.
Yeah, their most recent 2 albums are like, dude.
So don't bother checking them out then.
Yes, like go play your greatest hits for the next 20 years until you think of other stuff instead of trying to rush new albums out the door because it's not working currently. Obviously, that won't happen because Taylor Hawkins just passed away. Yeah. But anyway.
So with Dave Grohl, is it sort of his songwriting and that kind of thing? Is that why you put him in your top 5, or is it like a tonal kind of thing?
It's more based on who I've listened to a lot recently. And he's just, I don't listen to Foo Fighters that much anymore. Yeah. I just haven't. Like, I've not been into them hardcore into them for a while, probably since 2011, 2012 timeframe.
Yeah. So with the Hawthorne Heights thing, so did you say that you played with them with your band?
No, not with Hawthorne Heights, with The Story Changes, Mark's other band.
Are you still in the band then?
No. We went on a like indefinite hiatus.
Yeah.
In like 2013, and then like the lead singer, who was my best friend at the time, just completely cut me out of his life randomly.
Oh no!
Never gave me an explanation. And
musicians are weird.
Well, I mean, but we were friends outside of the band, though. That's the thing. Like, we went to high school together. He was the best man at my wedding.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then he just kind of randomly cut me out of his life with no explanation whatsoever. I've asked for one a couple times, like, dude, what did I do to wrong you? And
you just didn't get any kind of response? Never
got a response. And then, like, I got invited to his wedding, and it's like, dude, this is the first time I'm meeting your wife.
Yeah.
And you guys have been together for like 6 years. Like,
it's such a shame.
Yeah. But anyway, it's in the past. But so let's get into the channel a little bit. What inspired you to start the channel? I mean, obviously you had more time with the pandemic and stuff.
Yeah, that definitely played sort of a big part in it. But I've been pushing the band thing for years and years, and when you look back, it's really kind of easy to see like the mistakes that you make and like the wrong choices, and when good opportunities come up and you mess them up and whatever. But and the people that you surround yourself with, and it's like not thinking about anybody in particular, but just like looking back at the way you could have done things a bit better. And when like I love doing the playing and the writing and the performing, I never want to stop doing that. And I've never had any experience in like the solo artist kind of thing, because I've never really been into that. But with the band thing, it's if everybody isn't pushing as one, it's really hard to take things to the next level. And you know, everybody says you're always as weak as your weakest link. So I just wanted to do something on my own, but the solo artist thing for me isn't for me. And I've always loved gear and sound, and I've always been a big sort of consumer of gear content on YouTube, and I've always wanted to give it a go. But public speaking was like a huge fear, and I kind of didn't believe I was ever actually going to do it. It's like just the biggest fear is public speaking. It's horrible. But I really wanted to do it, so I started planning and learning and investing, like time-wise and financially as well. And I got to the point where I'd watched like hundreds of hours of Think Media and vidIQ content, and at that point I had a good idea of like how it all works, the thumbnails, the YouTube recommendation system, what click-through rate means and what all the statistics mean. So I had a plan, I had video ideas, but I was still a bit too scared to sort of finally press record.
Yeah, and that surprises me because you seem totally comfortable on camera from everything I've seen.
I feel like I'm acting through a lot of it, and it's becoming a lot more natural the more I do it. But at first, it was just... So I started thinking, like, I really wanted to... If I don't do this, I've wasted all this time and whatever in preparing to do it. And this is where it gets a bit weird, and it involves Mike from CGS, who we both know. And I have to give a bit of background to this. Like, he doesn't even know this, but I first come across him years ago, and I think it was related to some kind of like Rob Chapman drama. I think it was from the Chapman Guitar Forum. And I read all this stuff on there. Like, I clicked on his channel expecting him to be like this total dick, but I realized really quickly, like, he's just the nicest man in the world. Like, what's everyone's problem? Anyway, I didn't really think about him again. And then the first GitCon happened in 2017. And I was excited because you had like Phil McKnight there and the Tone King and Henning. And I see that he's there in some of their videos. So I get to know him a bit better, just like watching these like content. And I decided that he was worthy of the sacred click, the subscribe. So I subscribed to his channel and I become more of a regular viewer. And this is a bit weird.
Are we talking about Mike from CGS or Rob?
Yeah. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, Mike from CGS. And so I started watching his channel, and his live shows are on a Sunday evening. And on Sunday evenings, I like to iron my kid's school uniform. So I'd stand there, I'd be watching his channel on the TV, and I'd be ironing the school uniform. And anyway, a bit of a tangent, but I'm a huge fan of diesel amps. So I just think they're the best amps, and they just like do exactly what I need. And so Mike uploads a video saying he's got the new mini diesel heads. And I thought it'd be really cool to see like how it sounds compared to the big one. So I sent him an email saying, look, if you want, I'll bring the big one down. You can do like a comparison video. I'll leave it with you, or I'll do it. We'll sit around while I'll wait while you do it. So, and I knew he wasn't too far away from where I am. He's about an hour and a half, 2 hours maybe. So I drove down. So he says, yeah, come down. That'll be brilliant. So I drove down, and then he springs it on me that I can make a video for my channel too, to get things going. And I say spring, like he'd mentioned it in passing, and I wasn't too keen on the idea of filming my first video with someone else there watching me. But I thought, like, if he brings it up, I'll just like come up with something and say, oh no, maybe next time or whatever. But it did come to it, and he brought it up, and I didn't want to embarrass myself by coming up with excuses. So he basically threw me in the deep end, and to be honest, it was the best thing that could have happened to me, because after that I'd done it, and that was it. It's out there, it's out on YouTube. I've got no more excuses or reasons as to like why I can't do it. And like I've always been able to do video editing. Like I left school and my first job was working as a video editor, so I knew how to do that. And guitar and gear has taken up like an unhealthy amount of mental space for me for like 20 years, and it's not going away anywhere soon. So if I'm able to make that as like part of my real life, then I'm happy with that. So yeah, a bit of a weird kind of tangent of story of how I got into it, but basically I wanted to do it, probably wouldn't have done it. He put me in that situation, and then 6 months later, 35 or 40 videos deep, I just got back from the British Boutique Guitar Festival and met everybody, and the good thing was is like I went to the British Boutique Guitar Festival expecting to be like treated differently because, you know, I've got a small channel, it's only 6 months old, but I wasn't. I was like treated exactly the same as every other person that was there. I was given the same amount of time as like Lee was there. You know Lee, don't you? Lee Fuchs.
Yeah, I love Lee.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
Channels. Yeah.
And so he was there, and I got the same treatment as everybody else, and it was so good. Like there was 2 studios set up there, and I took my own camera and whole like travel rig because I thought I'll just find like a quiet space somewhere. I'll try and make some videos, be out of everyone else's way. And Mike was looking at me like, what are you doing? Get in the studio, go and do some work. Same as everybody else. So yeah, it's just been such a good experience so far.
That's awesome. So I was going to ask you about that. What's your best Henning Polly moment then from I'm sure there's some hilarious ones.
The thing with Henning is like Mike's got a little boy, but Henning doesn't have a filter. Like he will just say anything, and I'm just sitting there thinking, "Oh my god, there's no way I would be saying this with like a 9-year-old boy sitting there." He done the with the British Boutique Guitar Festival. Each day there was like a run through of like who's there. So Henning done the first day. So they followed him around with a camera. He's like meeting the people, insulting every single person. And the next day, I turned up there and they were like, "Oh, Jake, you're doing it today." It's like, what? Got like all these people around me watching, and I'm having to go around like introducing them to the camera, and it was such a good sort of like a valuable kind of experience. Hating that kind of situation, but again, like you're thrown in the deep end, you don't want to look like an idiot, so you just do it. And I'm so glad that I was put in that situation. But no, Henning's brilliant. Like what I like about Henning, I like a lot about Henning. And first of all is the way he is on camera. He's like that in real life, like non-stop. None of it's fake.
But you actually got to meet him and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Hang out with them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I was with him for like two days, and it was
so
the first time I met him.
Is it true he broke 2 guitars? Because he claims he only broke 1, but Lee says he broke 2.
Right, and that was the second British Boutique guitar. But I'm pretty sure he did break 2 because he broke like the tremolo on one guitar, and I heard that he broke, maybe it was the pickups or something. Because there was like a 5 pickup guitar, and I think he had something to do with breaking, maybe even the wiring or the switching or something to do with that. He definitely broke at least 2. And I was quite disappointed because at the last one, there were no incidents. It all ran smoothly. He didn't break anything. I mean, I'm sure he tried,
Right.
but yeah, no, Henning, he's yeah.
Anything particularly funny that he did off camera? One of my life goals, Jake. Now I've made it one of my life goals that I want Henning to call me a fucker in person as a term of endearment.
Oh yeah, he will. All right, so one of the exhibitors there, he was an acoustic guitar maker, and on the back of his guitar, really don't know how to put this, but it was in the grain of the wood, there was a shape, and it was if you're interested in the opposite sex, it was a familiar shape. Nobody else would point it out. Obviously, Henning points it out. So,
of course,
this man, he's don't know how to put this either. He's an older man. Anyway, so he's made this guitar that's taken him 4 months. This older man, really nice man, turns it around, and on camera, Henning's like, "What is this? This looks like a vagina." Everyone starts laughing, don't they? But the funny thing is, the guitar maker, he doesn't say this at the time. He does his bit with him, and then he comes over, and he's like, "The funny thing is, before I was making guitars, I was a doctor. I was a gynecologist."
That's awesome.
I know. Unbelievable. Yeah. Henning is like, there's no filter, but he's so honest.
Right.
And like, as soon as he met me, he gave me loads of time. He checked out my channel straight away. He subscribed to my channel. I got the alert, HP42. I was like, what? He gave me some video advice. He gave me some gear advice. I've texted him since then to ask about some other gear advice. So he's so happy to help. And I think that I don't want to like kiss up to him too much, but he was the whole GitCon thing. Like before GitCon, it seems like everybody was like their kind of individual, but he's like brought everybody together. And he's, from an outsider looking in, like, I don't have the benefit of being in these kind of inner circles, but I do have the benefit of like seeing it from the outside looking in, and it seems like he's brought everybody together, whereas before it was just, you know, everyone was their own like little sort of cliques here and there or whatever. But yeah, and that's the best thing about Henning. I think that he's kind of selfish in that way, and he wants there to be like that kind of community feeling. Yeah, like he puts these events together, and it's not just to help the companies out, it gives the creators so much content.
Right. Because how many videos did you walk away with from Boutique Guitar Festival?
Well, yeah, that's it. I mean, I was there for 2 days, and I came away with 10 videos. I put the first one out recently.
Yep, I saw that.
Oh, you saw it?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so that was the first one, and there's another 9 coming out. So, I mean, Mike holding this event, that's given me like 10 weeks of content while I put my own stuff out in between as well. So it's just been such a huge help. And it's all kind of edited on the fly as well. So like when I was in there sort of talking and demoing guitars, somebody else was switching, and all that switching gets printed onto like a single video file. So there's no editing between cameras. It's all there as one. And then you just take out like the awkward bits or mistakes or whatever. So the majority of it's edited. So you get so much content in those couple of days. It's a huge help.
Nice. I wish they did stuff like that here in the U.S. I know Ryan Burke from 60 Cycle Bomb. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
I am.
Very funny dude.
Yeah, I really like Ryan.
You don't?
Oh, no, I do. I really like him.
Do? Okay, yeah. I thought you said you don't really like him.
Oh, no.
How could somebody not like that guy?
It's weird because like I don't have much in common with him, like musically or whatever, but he's probably one of the YouTubers that I watch like nearly all of his stuff.
Yeah,
like every like podcast that he does with Steve, I'm always there watching him. I really like Ryan. Yeah, he did the was it the Guitar House? Was it Guitar House?
Yeah, Guitar House. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had like Perfecto de Castro and.
Well, that was the first one. You never know. Next year.
What?
That was the first one, wasn't it? This year, so you never know. Next year, you might be there.
I doubt it. I'm not. Everybody he had, I think, had at least 5,000 subs, and I'm nowhere close to that yet. So,
I wouldn't be so sure because opportunities can come up.
I mean, I'm on his radar. He knows who I am because we met at Summer NAMM last year. I felt like we hit it off pretty decent, and I may or may not have gotten him a bottle of whiskey as a
nice
/bribe gift. But no, so are we going to see you at 42 Gear Street anytime soon then?
I don't know if I'm allowed to say, but yeah.
This year?
Yeah.
Awesome.
And so we were in Mike's kitchen, and they're all talking about 42 Gear Street, and I'm sort of like standing there awkwardly, like I didn't want it to be awkward or whatever. And then Henning turns around to me and he's like, "You coming?" It's like, yeah, I'm coming. And then I was like, "Are you serious?" And it was like, "Yeah." It's like, "I'm pretty full up, but I think I might have space." I was like, "Oh, 1,000,000% I would love to come." Like, and the weird thing is like, it's in August, and I'm away for 2 weeks, and in the last 2 weeks I'm on tour, and there's this 1 week, and it was clear, except the Saturday is like the biggest gig of the year that I do. It's like a big event, but I was able to get somebody to cover for me, and it's just worked out brilliantly. So yeah, I will be feeling like a total imposter, but
Dude, you shouldn't, because when Lee Fuge went for the first time, I think he only had like just a skosh under 500 subs, because I subbed to his channel. I think he had 300 maybe. And he went to Gear Street shortly after that, and then just exploded after that.
yeah.
So
I tried to play it cool when he asked me. I was like, "Yeah, I'm coming." Like, just pretending it was like, but inside, I was jumping about like a little kid. Honestly.
oh yeah, I would be too. That's one of my bucket list items, is to get invited and attend that eventually.
Yeah, I mean, I can't explain like how excited I am. I've got like a whole recording, like what Ryan does and what Mike does with their sort of like travel rigs. I'll show you my pedalboard. It's all designed for this in mind now, because I want to be able to just go and make videos wherever, because it's set up in a way that you book time in rooms, but if you've got your own sort of facility to make videos, you can make even more. You can just go up and talk to the people at the companies, and you can like disappear off into a corner. So I had a pedalboard, and now what's this?
Hey Jake, when you get a minute too, I want you to show me your travel rig, because I'm having a hard time figuring mine out. I bought a piece of gear that was proposed one way and ended up being a total piece of shit that's unusable.
Oh, no.
So now I have to figure out something else. So I'm still trying to figure out my travel rig. So
well, at the moment,
the pedalboard first.
So I've got this. It's all based around the HX Stomp. I don't know how well you can see that, but if you notice, all the lights are on.
Yep.
Because it's entirely battery powered. So I've got the wireless. So the only cable I need is this going to my recording device, which is like a little Zoom H6. So that the Zoom H6 will record my I've got one of these Rhodes wireless microphones. So I can speak, it will record me. I can plug this into it, wireless into my guitar, so I'm almost completely cableless, and I can just make a video wherever. So I've got all like my sounds and whatever, because I use this for gigs. Depending on the gig, there might be backline there. So what I do is I just take this into the effects return of whatever amps at the gig.
Sure.
What I wish with the HX Stomp is that they came with an XLR, but it's only a jack output. So I've got this like it's an active DI box. Oh, it's really small. So I've got an output going to there, and then that can go to front of house if they want it. And then this just changes between banks on the HX Stomp, and then I use the tuner, so I don't have to sacrifice one of these buttons. And then with the wireless I've been using this wireless since about 2010, and nice. It's just been brilliant. But and yeah, the rest of the travel rig is just it's one of the Sony ZV-E10 cameras with the the Zoom audio recorder just mounted on top of it, all on a tripod. So I can just put that down, put my pedalboard at my feet, and then take whatever guitar and just press record and go.
So what was that mic you said you had for it? It's wireless, right? The Rode or whatever?
Yeah, this is it's called the Rhodes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's called the Rode Wireless Go. So you've got a transmitter and a receiver. So you put the receiver with the audio recording device, just plug it into the input, turn it on, and then you can plug like a lapel mic into it, or it's got a mic built in, and then you've got this little windshield, so you can just clip it on there. if you
So
don't
how
want to
does
mess
that
about.
work then? Does that go into the HX stomp and then you're running into like a
No, that goes into the thing that's recording the sound, which is the Zoom H6, which is too awkward to get to probably.
No, that's fine. So the files for the sound go on the Zoom then?
Yeah, so the files for the sounds for the speaking and from the guitar, they all go onto the Zoom,
And then
then
you
can
just pull them off of there and sync them up with the camera.
sync them up to the video. Yeah, so it's the perfect kind of.
Go ahead.
It's the perfect kind of rig for that kind of situation. And
Right.
and the good thing is where I've made the pedalboard so like battery powered and completely independent. I can use it for gigs as well, battery powered, without worrying about dirty power or making sure that everything's isolated, because it's all battery powered. So you never run into like ground loops or anything like that.
Right. Yeah, because I bought an iRig Duo Pro from IK Multimedia, and one on the box it says you get the full version of Amplitude 5, which is not true.
Oh no.
If you buy the unit, because when I put my stuff in, I got 5 effects pedals that are all garbage. And when you try, it says you have to run it with iPhone, but the problem is the voice recorder for it. And my camera I use, the mic is absolute dog crap on it. It's like a Japanese knockoff of a GoPro Hero, just because I've been too cheap to buy a $800 camera.
Yeah.
But like it says you're supposed to be able to run the voice recording and that simultaneously. You can't, because the iPhone won't let you.
Oh, that's so annoying.
Yeah, and so I spent $300 on this unit that's unusable.
Do you know what I found? The thing that I've noticed most about doing like this whole YouTube thing is it's just worth it to spend the money first time round.
Right.
If you don't have the money, just wait and save up for it, because even things like stands and tripods, I've been buying these things cheap. Every one of them's been replaced, so it's ended up costing me so much more in the long run.
Right.
And the same with the microphones, and it's just like, I mean, these little things, these are expensive, but once you bought it, then you've got it, and then you try. I was trying other sort of cheaper solutions, and then again I've bought those, and I've wasted the money on those, and I just wish that I'd just gone for it. But at that time I didn't have it, so.
Right.
But then there's always, you just got to do the best with what you have. So
exactly. So what's your favorite piece of gear you reviewed so far for the channel then?
Oh, for the channel, well, I mean, I bought a lot of gear just to review for the channel, so like the Harley Bentons and that kind of thing. And this is the active one, the active Strat type. And that really it's a really good guitar. I think the active pickups help because they sound very similar to EMGs. And I know a lot of people disagree with this, but I really do think that when you put EMGs in a guitar, they do just kind of have that sound. They do make everything kind of sound the same.
Right.
I think that's just the effect that those kind of active pickups have. And a lot of people don't like it. They disagree. But I think that's a massive benefit, because you can put it in such a cheap guitar, put it next to, something of high value with EMGs, and it's not going to play as well, but it sounds brilliant, and it does play really well.
Right.
But the things that I've had for the YouTube channel is probably, I've done a few things for the HX Stump because I know it really well, and it's definitely the most useful piece of gear, because for live situations it's perfect, for recording, for on the go kind of YouTube content. It just does everything. And I've been into like the Line 6 stuff since the Pod 2.0. So it's kind of like a system that I've like grown with and really got to know. And I had like the X3 stuff and the HD and now the Helix stuff. But I even gig sometimes with an old Vetta, and people come up to me and they're like, is this like some kind of new amp? Because it's so old. people at these gigs, like other guitarists, they don't even realize that these were like amps from like 20 years ago or 15 years ago. And like, it sounds so good. Is this like some kind of new Line 6 thing? It's like, no, this is like really old technology. But yeah, another tangent. But yeah, the HX Stomp is just, it's just brilliant.
Nice. What's your favorite brand as far as guitars go then?
Oh man.
That's not Gibson or Fender.
So it's not Gibson. This guitar, I don't know if you can see it, but I had it refinished in like a black sparkle.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's just a Les Paul Standard from 2005.
Is that the one you're playing in the videos for the band?
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
Okay.
It normally is, but out of all the brands, I think I would say PRS. I would, yeah. I don't even know why I'm pretending. 100% PRS. I think PRS himself is just a genius, and I love watching interviews with him. I love it when it gets awkward and he says something like have you ever heard the thing he says about left-handed guitarists?
No.
When they're like, oh, why don't you make more left-handed? He's like, I've never seen a left-handed piano. I don't know, you're like, my bass player is left-handed, so I wind him up with it all the time. But when you look through the list of left-handed guitarists who play right-handed, and it's like people like I think Steve Morse and Gary Moore, there's like this whole massive list of people that are just unbelievable who are left-handed, but they play guitar right-handed. So yeah, I don't know why I'm starting with this, but yeah, PRS. This is the only core PRS that I've got.
Nice.
But I've had it for. What's that?
Did that come like that, or did you do the finish on that one too?
No. This is an emerald green. I think it's from like 2001.
Okay.
But it's had quite a lot of modifications. Like I got a Tremonti PRS pickup in the bridge. I've got this wrap-around bridge that you can intonate, and it's got a brass nut, and I've got these hip shot locking tuners on it as well.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I've had it for a long time, and but yeah, so this is the one that can. There's a load of them that I'll never let go of, but this is like the number one.
Awesome. So what's a brand you haven't tried yet that you'd like to dig into?
This is going to sound really weird, but I think Ibanez.
Really? That's interesting. Why?
Yeah. I just haven't had any time with Ibanez. Like, I'm looking around the room now and I can see Schecters and Gibsons and Fenders and PRS, and I've had a lot of time with Jacksons, but Ibanez is just something that I think it's that I've never had a guitarist kind of influence who has been an Ibanez player. Like I've never been into Joe Satriani or Steve Vai or any of those people that you think about. Yeah, I can't think of anybody who's been like an influential player who's like influenced me, who's been an Ibanez player.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's a weird one as well, because like I would have thought by now I would have had an Ibanez, and
right.
You know,
I think it's weird in a good way, though.
it's, you know what I think is weird in a good way, because I've got a feeling there's this whole like other spectrum of guitars that I've yet to try, and I'm excited about trying them. And I think like you get to the point where you've played so many guitars, you don't get that excited, but because there's this whole like thing that I haven't sort of entered into it yet, it's like I've saved them. I've saved this whole thing and I want to experience it. And I think they're one of the brands that are going to be at 42 Gear Street, so that may be my moment.
Nice. Well, hopefully we see some Ibanez content on there. Have you?
I'd like to check out some of the like 7-strings and that, because I think they had like a big part of the whole like new metal thing, didn't they? Like bringing in the 7-strings with Korn, and I've got a 7-string behind me at the moment that Faisley have sent me that I was supposed to do a video for today, but we are just having this massive heat wave at the moment. I don't know if you're having something similar, But you do it all in like Fahrenheit, don't you? So I think in Fahrenheit it's been like 90 for like the last few days.
Yeah.
And we are not equipped for that kind of heat, and I am not built for that kind of weather. So I've got 2 fans on me at the moment, and I got the lights, and I started and it just wasn't going to happen. So I'm going to try again tomorrow. But so yeah, that's the 7-string thing. So I'm going to try that out tomorrow, but not an Ibanez. So I'm saving the Ibanez.
Yeah. Didn't you just do a Faisley Gold Top not that long ago?
Yeah. So Faisley have been the first brand to like reach out to me and be like, oh, we've seen your video. Can we send you some more so, we can put the word out? So I suppose in effect, like the first brand I'm kind of working with. And I mean, I don't know if you saw the video, but I just, again, like it was £133 guitar, which was, what's that, like $180 or something? I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's for a set neck construction guitar with, with the carve, and for it to even be functioning, it's just for that amount of money, it's just mad. And then I did like a track with it where I was using a few plugins, like which you can get demo versions of, and it would cost like next to nothing. All you need is like a little interface, and you can just like make a track that sounds good and have this guitar that is a good playing guitar for such a small amount of money. It's always it doesn't matter how many you try, it's always surprising. Like you look at them and you think it's going to be a toy. Right.
Well, and it's weird because I could think of a brand like that too. Like everybody I've watched is like, oh, Glary is trash, right?
Yep.
I reached out to Glary. They sent me those 2 Strat style guitars. The neck on the first one was amazing, right? And this is a $85 guitar, like you're talking about. And like it sounded like shit, but it played really good, right? And the second one they sent me didn't play as well, but it wasn't totally inconsistent. And it's just like the technology from now to when, back in the early 2000s when I worked at a secondhand music store it's just amazing how much better the manufacturing's gotten.
I played Mike's Glary at the weekends, and he uses it as like his main Strat now. I bought a Glary, this one here, and I'd show you, but I don't think you're going to be able to see, like the neck's like half hanging off, like the screws have been put in sideways, so that the neck's kind of bent that way. Everything about this guitar was just so bad, and I've heard so much good stuff about them, and again from you I'm hearing such. I think that I just, when you got production to that kind of scale, there's going to be bad ones, and I ended up with a bad one. So I'm going to do a bit of work on it, and I'm sure I'll be able to get it playing all right, and I'll do another video on it. But I do want to try out some more Glaries, because I don't think that that's a fair representation of the products that they are putting out. I'm hoping anyway.
And I had that with Harley Benton too. I don't know if you saw that video of when I had the HB35, the pink.
And I've had exactly the opposite experience with Harley Benton. Everyone's been so good.
Right. So like I'm totally going to give them a try again. I just haven't found another one that I like. Plus, I mean, I kind of, I'm doing a lot of stuff for vintage right now too. Like they're sending me 2 guitars. When I think that I don't have any experience with vintage guitars. I've never played them, but I feel that they're sort of just a quality is just a bit above all the other brands that we're talking about at the moment. Oh, it's well above, dude. Like, seriously, some of my V100s I would put up against most Gibsons any day. Absolutely put them up against most Gibsons. And some people think I'm nuts for saying that, but like, I have a buddy here in town that's a fellow guitarist and also is an insurance agent like me for the same company. And he's like, no, dude, they're going to be trash. $500 guitar, there's no way in hell. I took it over. This dude's got 1983 Silverburst, and I had him play my Silverburst V100. Now, granted, it was the updated model. He's like, dude, this is so much better than my Gibson. Like, can I seriously buy this from you? And I was like, no freaking way. They only made 100 of them. I'm not selling it to you, but like, I think he's bought 2 or 3 since then and gotten rid of most of his Gibson stuff. It's just, again, man, it goes back to how good for the factories to get another brand that's great bang for the buck. Have you tried Chapman yet?
I have a Chapman. It's currently in not pieces, but it's I started refinishing it, and then I was going to take it somewhere else to be refinished. But and again, it was one of the older ones, so it's one of the Chinese ones, so it's not a fair representation of the Korean or the Indonesian ones, because I know that they're going to be way better than the Chinese stuff.
Right. I own 4 of them, including 2 that used to belong to Rob himself.
Yeah.
And they're probably the 4 best guitars I own.
The new ML2 Pro looks so good.
Oh my God, yes, especially the River Styx black one.
Yeah. Yeah, see, I don't know what color I'd go for. They both look so good.
Yeah, they do. Well, dude, I think the new ML2 moderns are going to look really good too. The other ones that they talked about, I think they have black and like a butterscotch or something coming out.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I think that they seem to be a company that every couple of years they really have like quite a dramatic increase in quality and specs.
Yeah, for sure.
They don't take sort of small increments, do they? It's like quite big steps each time.
Right. So that leads me into my next question. I know Mike is on this list for sure. CGS. Who are some of your other favorite channels you watch?
Oh man, Ryan's definitely
60 Cycle Hum, obviously.
Yeah, Ryan's definitely. Oh, of course, obviously you're up there. I know maybe 1 or 2. I'm not sure.
Right. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely Ryan. Mike, obviously. I'm going to cheat here because I have the worst memory. Andy from the Guitar Geek channel.
He's hilarious.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
Was he at the Goatee Guitar Festival?
He wasn't. I think that he was going to be, and I think Jamie Humphries was going to be, but I think that both of them weren't able to make it in the end. But they're both going to be at 42 Gear Street, so
nice. That's
kind of weird. And I watch a lot of the old school ones like Tone King and Steve from Boston,
right?
HP 42, Fluff. I've been watching Fluff and Ola for years and years. I really like Leon Todd, the Australian guy.
I don't know if I've seen him yet.
He plays like a lot of kind of 80s inspired. He's into like the Rat Gear, and I don't know if he's in a band called Ragdoll, and they're so good. The singer's just unbelievable. But yeah, I mean, and then obviously I've been watching Rob Chapman's videos since I think 2007.
Wow, so 15 years now.
Yeah, this is quite a scary thought. Like, I remember the first videos I saw of his. It was like, can the Orange Tiny Terror do metal or something? And he was using a PRS. And at the time, I was using the PRS, and I was looking at an Orange, a Rockaverb or something like that. And I came across his videos, and then from that point, I've been watching his videos. So, yeah, I've been just having a quick skim. But yeah, all the kind of usual ones. Pete Thorne and Tim Pierce.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, so there's kind of the biggest ones, really.
Now,
I hope I haven't left anybody out that I'm going to see at 42 Gear Street now. I'll be like, well, that's embarrassing. I didn't say them. But if I did forget them, it's only because I've got a small brain and no other reason.
So, hey, have they started making, like, has Lee or Mike or anybody started making you learn any Skid Row riffs to surprise Hennig with?
I'm not at liberty to say, really.
Okay. I'll take that I'll answer that to myself then. Trying to think of what else I have for you.
I mean, it'd be weird if I didn't sort of learn 18 in Life and
right, exactly.
You've Gone Wild or something.
Dude, I have a couple questions about England, if that's okay. Not guitar related.
Oh, being English, I feel quite qualified to answer these questions.
Okay. Some people just want to talk guitars, so I figured I'd ask first. So, is England as magical of a place for the British as it is for us? Because like England to people in the US has like this magical, like cool medieval, like knights in shining armor jousting vibe no matter where you go. Like even when I was in London, I felt that vibe when I was over there.
Yeah, I don't feel that vibe. I feel that there's not a huge difference between, say, like, you know, I think the big difference is there's that history. There's more sort of history. But as a kind of like a culture type thing, I feel like the internet has made the world so much smaller, and I think even like accents and that kind of thing, they're all becoming sort of watered down. Like you speak to people now, and he's like, "Have you been spending time in America?" And like, it's just how they speak. And they've lived in London their whole lives, and you're like, "Why are you speaking like this?" I just feel like there isn't this whole, maybe like 10, 15, 20 years ago or more, there was a more sort of dramatic kind of difference between, but now I don't feel it. It's like, and I definitely don't feel like there's some kind of,
because if I lived,
I think there's like a mystique, isn't there, because of the history?
What?
There's like that kind of mystique, isn't there, because you've got the history, and because we're in it, and because we live it, we don't feel that, because for what you describe, for us, that's just how it is. So we don't see that as being different.
Right.
So it's so hard to look at it from that perspective.
We would go to like Tower of London or Westminster or one of those, and I'd totally be geeking out the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah, and the weird thing is, I think like London itself has a very different feel to pretty much everywhere outside of London. Yeah, maybe a similar kind of feel in like Liverpool and Manchester, but it does feel like separate. I mean, we are definitely not going to get kind of political or anything, but when you look at like, say, the voting for Brexit, for example, London would be like, no, we want to stay in the EU. The rest of the UK, the majority of it was like, yeah, we want to leave. And there's a big kind of divide between London and a lot of the rest of the UK.
Ah, I see.
And it's funny because like my bass player, Terry, he's from Liverpool, and he's like, he won't describe himself as English. He's like, I'm Danish and I'm Scouse, like from Liverpool. I'm not English, I'm Scouse. Like he won't have it, because he feels that disconnected from the rest of England. It's a really weird kind of thing.
That is weird.
Yeah, it's hard to describe, but it just kind of feels normal to us because it's just how it is.
You mentioned something earlier about the accents being more watered down. And it's interesting because I'm taking a class at university right now. I'm actually going back to school to become a teacher, and taking a class called Language and Learning. And we're talking a lot about accents. And I remember going over to London with my dad. This was when I was 15. I'm almost 40 now, so it's a long time ago. But in the middle of London, we'd go into a pub with these friends he met online that we were hanging out with. I could barely understand what they were saying, right? Because they'd be talking so darn fast. And then we'd go, to like Shepherd's Bush or, Camden or Oxford or someplace like that. And I could understand everybody just fine. But then, oh, you guys have a weird accent that's super cool. Yeah. They were saying that to me. And it's like, I don't know. I just thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah. It's funny, like even different parts of London, you like, they've always had like a different kind of accent, and even that's kind of dissolving into like this one big sort of thing now.
Yeah,
so.
For sure. And my dad, I swear to God, he was trying to get us killed when we were over there. So like I know you have a good sense of humor, and that's why I'm telling you this, but he would tell, so the people we stayed with in Sheringham, he actually met them through this online game that he played, where it's like an RPG type nerdy thing.
Yeah.
Kind of like D&D, only you type all this stuff out, right? And he was telling them, he's like, well, you know why we won the Revolutionary War, right? And I'm like, oh God, I don't know this man. And he's like, it's so we could speak English the way God intended it to be.
Oh no,
it's like, good Lord,
that's
man.
really funny.
Like, are you trying to get us killed here?
Yeah, yes. It's not something that most people would take offense to. I think that we definitely have a good sense of humor, and we know how to like laugh at ourselves.
And I've always noticed that, and that's good. Dude, I just realized too, one of the other reasons I love England so much and I want to live there is one of my all-time favorite TV shows is filmed and broadcast in the UK.
What's that?
Have you ever heard of Midsummer Murders?
Oh my God. It's so weird. Midsummer Murders, right? We got these two old ladies. Well, I'm not at my house. I'm at somewhere else, but in the garden. So there's these two old ladies that live next door, and my younger brother deliberately whistles the Midsummer Murders theme tune because they'll think that it's my mum whistling to put her in like this awkward situation. And it happened today, and we were discussing it. It's so weird that you bring it up, but yeah, we know Midsummer Murders. Yeah,
nice, dude. That's one of my
I have to say it's not the best sort of. It's not the most accurate depiction of life in the UK, but
I understand that completely. I just love the landscapes and the seeing the old buildings and stuff from back in the day.
I haven't watched it for years, and then it's been brought up twice in the same day. It's so weird.
That is awesome, though.
Yeah.
Which part of England?
I have to go home and watch it. The green part? I don't know.
Huh. I'll have to look that up.
Yes. Definitely not London, I know that.
So, what's your favorite London hangout spot?
I don't go out. I've got kids.
Okay.
I
don't either because I have kids also.
Yeah, it changes a lot, doesn't it? So when I do what would effectively be seen as hanging out, is when I play gigs. So there's a place in East London that put on really good pop punk band nights, and just to be in this kind of in the venue with all the bands seem to always be really nice, so you can kind of hang out in the backstage. It's the venue itself is in the week. It's like a rehearsal studio, and then they use their big stage room as an event, like an events room. So there's a few like smaller rehearsal rooms that they use as like a backstage, and you kind of hang out with the other bands and get to meet other people in bands and whatever. And it's just got like a nice feel to it. The person who puts the gigs on is really cool, and it's just a nice place to be. So that's it's called the Engine Rooms in Bow in East London. So that's a nice. It's got like an outside bit now with a TV, and it's in the middle of nowhere. Like it's in an industrial estate. It's a pain for people to get to. The parking's weird, but it's a cool place.
So do you drive everywhere, or is everybody still?
I drive everywhere. I haven't been on. I had to get on a train this year because I had to take my car in for a service, and I didn't want to sit around in like coffee shops for like 2 hours, or 4 hours or whatever, like a creep. So I decided to get the train back. But before that, I haven't been on a train since I got my driving license in like 2007, which is really weird because most London people aren't like that. They're on the tubes, on the trains, on the buses or whatever. But yeah, as soon as I got my driving license,
over there, and the roads were so crappy that
it's so bad. Yeah. They're so bad, and they've done things like during COVID. They use COVID as an excuse to make some changes to the roads. So there's a lot that you can't drive down now. So it's created like havoc on all the main roads. So just sitting in traffic non-stop. But yeah, there was one period of time where we moved out of London into Essex, and we lasted like 9 months. And we literally got there, and we were like, "What have we done?" So I had to commute for 9 months to school, and it was like we had to get a cab in the morning from our house to the station, and this was like 5:30 in the morning, and I had to go through this whole big thing just to get to school for 9 o'clock for these 9 months. So I think that's what's like ingrained into me. I never want to have to do that again, so I'm just driving all the time. But yes, I was on the tube all the time. Our nearest tube station is, I think, probably Angel Station, because I live in like central kind of North London, so Islington, and I think that's the deepest station. It's got like the longest escalator, and that's about all I know about it. There you go. There's an interesting fact for you.
How far are you from like Piccadilly Square?
I like 2 miles maybe.
Okay.
So about 6 days driving, or 2 miles.
6 days driving, nice. Yeah, that was our favorite stop, is Piccadilly Square, Piccadilly Circus area when we were over there. That seems to be where all the happening shops are and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you're so close to like Covent Garden and obviously Leicester Square and Piccadilly Circus, that whole kind of area. You're in the middle of everything there, and everything is like, you know, almost like a 20-minute walk from like one thing to the other. But yeah, it's a busy area.
Nice.
And there's so much to do around there, isn't there? It's just everything. You know, all the theatres and small venues and that kind of thing.
Right. So do you prefer fish and chips with haddock or cod?
100% cod. And we had fish and chips at the British Boutique Guitar Festival. And I'm pretty sure that's the only reason Henning actually comes over to the UK to do it, is to experience the fish and chips. But
do they still serve curry with the fries? Or with
that's dirty. You can't do that. Right? Because we had... No. Someone from... I think, do you know Adam from Hot Pole Studios? He was there. I think it was him who was talking about it. Because he's from, like, Manchester, I think. And that's like a normal kind of thing. But no, that's filthiness. You can't be doing that.
How is that filthy? Dude, curry's amazing.
Curry might be amazing, but mixing it with fish and chips, dirty.
So what do you dip your chips in then?
Ketchup.
Ketchup?
Yeah. Put some vinegar and salt on the chips, and you can dip them in some ketchup. But you can't be putting curry sauce on fish and chips.
Yeah.
But people do it.
I remember dipping it. There was this place in Sheringham that was like that served it, and their curry was nice and thick, and so I fell in love with it. And whatever.
You got to remember, like, being in London, we're a lot more advanced than a lot of the UK. So somewhere like Sheringham, I would expect that kind of behaviour. But being in London or the nice little area that Mike lives, you don't get that sort of behaviour. There's a special place in you just don't do it.
So you guys are more of the upscale Brits in London with the pinky, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
There's nothing wrong with a bit of sophistication.
Exactly. I mean, if I was going to see the Queen, I would practice, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be rude not to, and I'm sure she would be impressed with your technique.
Right. So one last thing for you. What's your dream guitar?
Dream guitar.
Like if money was not an issue.
What's that?
Like if money was not an issue.
Yeah. I spent a bit of time with a friend of my dad's is like really good friends with Phil Collin from Def Leppard, and he sends guitars over to him like to look after or that he's bored with or whatever, and I've played a couple of them, and he left one with me for a little while. It was a Jackson PC1. And it was just, I loved everything about this guitar. But there's just something about playing a signature guitar. I don't know what it is, but it's been instilled in me in some kind of way that I just don't feel right playing a signature guitar. And I don't know what it is. I think it's the same kind of thing as like, you never want to be seen as, I don't know if you get this, but I get this sometimes. I don't want to be seen as a fan. I want to feel like I don't want to be... it's so weird to put into words. And that's what I always feel like playing a signature guitar.
Right.
So if I could have like the PC1, those kind of specs, maybe with like a reverse headstock and like a cool green colour, maybe something like that. Probably that. Yeah.
Nice.
But you put me on the spot there. I mean, if I'd thought about it, I would have come up with something much better. So maybe next time.
Yeah, maybe next time or something. Think about it, and then
I'll think about it.
Or
I'll
maybe
write it down and
something
then
at 42 Gear Street, like you'll play Hennigs Vola or something.
what's that? You broke up then? Yeah, I'm just doing an internet speed check. I think it might be yours.
Okay, and then I'll have you back for another episode or something.
Cool, sounds good.
Does that work?
Yeah, it's been really fun talking to you and finally speaking to you kind of face to face instead of like comments and that kind of thing. This has been really cool.
Yeah, for sure. Well, for those of you watching, I will post links to where you can find Jake's music and his channel, Instagram, socials, all of that. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Again, we were with Jake Leigh Guitar, who is an awesome up-and-coming YouTuber. I'm predicting that by the end of 2023, he will have 5,000 subs. He's that good. So anyway, as always, thank you so much for watching, and have fun playing.